Zealand's housing crisis. Oh, fuck. Come to the Lord Jesus. What a load of fuck. You've read 20 plus articles this month, so what the fuck is it to you? Whether you visit stuff or hard-hitting investigations that hold the powerful to account or light-hearted stories to loose yourself in, it is our mission to provide trustworthy reporting for all New Zealanders. If stuff is an important part of your day, please join other loyal readers in supporting our independent journalism. Get fucked. So, does that mean I'm able to read it, or are they going to stop me and I can't read it until I get to the end? My motivation is to educate myself about New Zealand and its problems. It affects me as a New Zealander, the housing crisis. I would like to be able to talk about it intelligently, and as far as I understand in the world, you can only talk intelligently about certain subjects if you fucking well have done your fucking homework and know something about what you're fucking talking about. So, if stuff can fucking help me do that, then fucking marvellous. Can do with a fucking drink. Ghost houses, a spectre of New Zealand's housing crisis, or just a bogeyman? Melanie Carroll, I don't know how to say that, 5 something, I think it's 5 a.m. It's military time, and I can't, as far as I'm aware, and I can't remember military time. July the 17th, 2021. King Country house prices attract buyers. Lower house prices and job opportunities are attracting more property buyers to the King Country. Explainer. The spectre of ghost houses has haunted New Zealand for years, but is actually a bit of a bogeyman, says property commentator Ashley Church. With a lack of supply blamed for the country's housing crisis, the nearly 200,000 unoccupied dwellings identified in the 2018 census would surely be a handy addition to Aotearoa's housing stock. These empty houses range from modest suburban properties to multi-million-dollar dumps, with even Sir John Key's palatial former residence in Auckland, which sold for over $20 million in 2017, reportedly sitting empty. Data from Statistics New Zealand's 5-yearly census is the most commonly referred to when it comes to the issue of ghost homes. However, while the population data it delivers is reliable because it's so slow moving, the same can't be said for dwellings, says Church. The problem with the ghost home thing is it's a measure of what happens on the night of the census and nothing else, he said. Reasons for an empty house on census night include a property that is just sold but is not occupied yet. There were 78,000 houses sold in New Zealand in 2018, according to REINZ, or a rental property which is between tenants, or a house... Right, where's the beginning of that sentence? Reasons for an empty house on census night include a property that is just sold but is not occupied yet. There were 78,000 houses sold in New Zealand in 2018, according to REINZ, or a rental property which is between tenants, or a house undergoing renovations. New Zealand's empty houses range from modest suburban properties to million-dollar dumps. There's no multi. Likewise, batches and holiday homes qualify as empty homes. Unfortunately, there's no other measure to determine whether or not any of those situations is actually the one that prevails, he said. See our PSA software in action. Start your demo to get a behind-the-scenes look at the PSA tool chosen by MSPs worldwide. The percentage of empty properties has been fairly consistent over the years. Unoccupied dwellings made up 8.8% of total dwellings in the 1981 census and ranged between 8.1% and 9.7% over the decades that followed. In 2013, that rose to 10.6%, and in 2018 it was 10.3% of total dwellings. In 20 years, Church says he has seen a variety of different culprits identified when it comes to homelessness, house prices and the property market. Can you afford your first home? Blah, blah, blah. Of course I can't afford my first home. I'll never have land, I'll never have a house, I'll never have anything. I'm fucking white and gay. Think about it. So the government at the moment's decided in its wisdom that property investors are the problem. What? Property investors are the problem. And when you say government, what the fuck does that mean? Does that mean Hitler or does it mean Harry with AIDS? I'm not sure. Who is the government in New Zealand at the moment? Oh, it's Harry with AIDS. So the government at the moment's decided in its wisdom that property investors are the problem with house prices, and that's why house prices are going up. That's not new. That does roll around every few years. A while back it was foreign buyers, and ghost homes is one of these. It's more about people's desire to find somebody to blame than it is necessarily about the thing itself actually being the real problem. And I think that's the case with ghost homes. I don't think it's a particularly large problem in the sense that it's not new and it's not getting any bigger necessarily. And if those empty properties went back into the housing pool, it wouldn't make much difference, he said. Get powerful broadband that's more reliable. Oh, fuck off. There's a lot of people saying, I can't afford a house. That's true, but that's not the same as saying we don't have enough houses available for them. Prosper, Small Business Health Check, take your survey on how you're feeling about 2021. Oh, fuck off. Jesus Christ. Get a big black Indian up here. Fuck. The average number of people per household has been 2.7 since 26, while the population grew significantly. If we'd had a shortage of housing, that average household occupancy figure should have got higher since 1987. It should have gone up. It's gone down. It's gone from 3.29 in 1986 and 2.87 in 2013. It's actually dropped. There's only two ways that could happen. The population's dropped, which it didn't, or we build more houses than we needed. Built. There's only two ways that could happen. The population's dropped, which it didn't, or we built more houses than we needed. CoreLogic senior property economist Kelvin Davidson agreed that data was hard to come by to determine exactly why houses were empty. It is an emotive topic, ghost houses, the rich versus the poor. We've been talking about the gap between the haves and the have-nots. People in the market that own homes benefiting from 2.5% mortgage rates versus those who aren't, and finding it's taking much longer to save a deposit. There's been a gap open up in the last 12 or 15 months, and that's driven the politics, that's driven the intervention by the government, intervention by the Reserve Bank. It's emotive, it's political, it's a big topic for people, but that ghost house is, It's emotive, it's political, it's a big topic for people, but that ghost house issue is very hard to prove because it's getting down to very detailed information. Oh, your new game with Chuckles. Oh, fuck off, Chuckles. CoreLogic senior property economist Calvin Davidson says data is hard to come by to determine exactly why houses are empty. Foreign buyers, one potential driver of empty houses, had never been a major influence and are now making net sales of New Zealand properties. And they're probably likely to be upper end properties anyway, so they wouldn't ever be intended for long-term rentals or owner occupation. It's kind of a niche market, I would have thought, the kinds of properties that could be ghost houses, said Davidson. For houses to become more affordable for people, CoreLogic estimated the country needs 60,000 more dwellings than it currently has. There's a big difference in terms of market implications putting 60,000 standalone houses in terms of land you need and capacity to build them versus 60,000 apartments, and would 60,000 apartments solve it anyway, because do people want to live in them? Davidson said. So it's a very big question, but in broad terms we're working on the assumption that if you had 60,000 more houses or more dwellings of any type over a medium term, that would help improve the affordability situation, not fix but help the so-called crisis. Raglan, I remember reading that other article about Raglan. I don't even know where the fuck Raglan is, and I don't ever remember going there. I'll have to check out Raglan. Raglan seems to be where it's happening in New Zealand. Raglan has had a problem with empty houses, but COVID-19 helped change the tide. Independent economist Benji Patterson said empty houses had been problematic in some visitor districts, not necessarily ghost homes, but holiday houses that are vacant for much of the year. Kiwis have always loved their holiday houses, but batches or cribs sitting idle had become an issue in areas that grew rapidly. Housing had become increasingly difficult and expensive for workers in tourist towns to find. In the North Island, it's been a problem in places like Raglan and the Coromandel. Also pre-COVID, it was a problem in Queenstown, Patterson said. Since COVID, it's less of a problem in Queenstown as a lack of overseas tourists pushed more holiday houses into the rental pool. He said having access to those houses would make a difference to the housing market. New Zealand's level of vacant houses is relatively high compared with some other countries. New Zealand's level of vacant houses is relatively high. Surely it would have to be is, there's no fucking verb. New Zealand's level of vacant houses is relatively high compared with some other countries. And what would be those other countries, you never say. Ross Adams, property manager at Ray White Raglan, said there are fewer empty houses in the tourist town about 2 hours drive south of Auckland since COVID-19 hit. Ghost houses used to be a bit of a problem, surely. Ghost houses used to be a bit of a problem. Ghost houses used to be a bit problem. They'd sit there empty until Christmas and New Year, Adams said. Well, Adams can't speak adequate English. It's less now than it has been. Kiwis coming back from overseas, quite a few people are coming back and using family homes. But there was a housing shortage in Raglan, with 3 couples renting a 3-bedroom property not uncommon. If you found this story informative, please consider supporting staff. Ah, fuck off. Make a contribution. Nah, fuck off. From the big moments in the boardroom to the little questions on your credit card, the staff business team keeps you across what's happening in our economy and how it affects you. We help small businesses prosper. We analyse the stock market. We challenge experts on the housing crisis, and we explain finances for everyday Kiwis. If Stuff is a regular source of business and finance news for you, please consider becoming a supporter. You can make a contribution from as little as $1. Nah, fuck off. If I can get it for free, I'll get it for free, thanks. That's right. Now, here is the thing that I didn't really understand. Ghost houses, I don't really understand that. Ghost houses, a spectre of New Zealand's housing crisis or just a bogeyman. Melanie Carroll, 17th of June 2021. So they've got spectre of ghost houses there. So we won't can it, we'll go for 20 minutes. Ghost houses on the rise, a problem of our own making. Colleen Hawkes, 1342, September the 26th, 2019. Oh, postman, we can't see the pictures. The North Shore has proved a popular investment area for offshore buyers, many of whom prefer to leave their houses empty. Opinion. 16 months ago, I wrote a story about ghost houses in Auckland, those perfectly good houses that sit empty on so many of our streets because their absentee land banking owners don't want the hassle of being a landlord. At that time, the only figure we had to go on in Auckland was 33,000, which came from the 2016 census. This week we learned that the number of empty houses has risen by a staggering 18% in the past 5 years, 2018 census, and the figure in Auckland is 39,393. And it is no surprise to read that the North Shore is one of the two suburbs with the highest increase, along with South Auckland, because North Shore was where we saw a lot of the problem last year. This 4-bedroom former ghost house in Stanley Point Road, Devonport, which locals said had been vacant for more than 4 years, was later advertised to rent for $2,600 per week. I am reading that correctly. You have to come up with $2,600 a week. Oh, fuck off. Both areas have seen massive subdivision growth, and it's fair to say some of these houses may be new ones waiting for a buyer, and there will be a certain small percentage sitting empty as owners planned rebuilds and are waiting for consents, which can take up to 18 months or more. Read more. Census 2018 shows worrying rise in empty houses. Is it time to address questions of ghost houses? Minister rules out empty home tax. This week, James Crow, founder of Advocacy. This week, James Crow, founder of advocacy group Gimme Shelter Aotearoa, put the increase in empty houses in Auckland down to a lack of affordability. The upmarket Auckland waterfront suburb of Devonport had its share of ghost houses, and these have included several mansions on Stanley Point Road. He said most owners of investment properties would want them tenanted, so they brought in income. Clearly, there was a disconnect between the accommodation available and the ability for people to pay for it. But that has never been the reason behind most of these empty houses. The real reason they are empty is because the owners want it that way. They are land banking. They do not want tenants because tenants are a hassle. They might wreck the house. Offshore owners. Many of the properties of offshore owners who bought before the Overseas Investment Law changed last October, and those figures have shown up in the census. With that law change now in place, one could imagine we could start seeing a levelling out or a drop in the number of ghost houses in the next census. Should we tax houses that are empty because the owners don't want tenants? No, I'm not sure I would go along with that. No. Fuck up, Harry, with fucking AIDS. Yes, absolutely, we have a housing crisis after all. No, it's their house and they can do what they want. I may be persuaded to have a small tax, but I'm not into taxing. Really. Last year, Hayden Stanaway, Regional General Manager for Bayliss North Shore, said his team had noticed in many areas of the shore that people bought houses for capital gain and didn't want tenants. A lot of them didn't even get the lawns done, which is a big sham. Fair enough if you don't need the income, but they could at least look after the place. It's a worry for the neighbours when this happens. There's a lot of land being bought up on the periphery of some suburbs, and the properties are often not tenanted, because the return might be only 1%, so it's not thought to be worthwhile. You can get 3 to 4% return elsewhere in the city. The classic purchaser is just there to land bank till such time as the land is zoned residential. In some Asian cultures, for example, people were generational land fuck. In some Asian cultures, for example, people were generational holders of land, he said. Scarcely more than a third of Auckland voters bothered to have their say in who should run their city in the last local body elections. Another North Shore agent who preferred not to be named said it is often a cultural thing. One colleague says it is very common in Vietnam for people to own several houses. His own parents own 3 to 4 houses and they don't put people in them. It's all about the capital gain. Another one of the firm's agents in Murray's Bay noted there were at least half a dozen houses in his street that have had no one living in them for 5 to 10 years. If all these houses were tenanted with an average of 4 people to each house, Auckland could potentially house another 157,000 people immediately, and Rents Trade Me puts the median in Auckland at $550 per week, could reduce. Do you have to pay $550 a week? Oh fuck. Not even Harry with AIDS would be able to afford that. The argument that houses are subjected to too much wear and tear when rented out is flimsy. A house that is not lived in can be subjected to worse. Humidity levels can rise inside when rooms are never aired. Leaks may go unseen, vermin can enter, like Harry with AIDS. And then there's the exterior that will still be weathering, and plants will still be growing. It's never a good move to leave a house empty for too long. Abandoned houses are evidence of that. Moral obligation. And what about being part of the community? Every homeowner automatically becomes part of the community by sheer virtue of the fact they have bought a house and become a ratepayer. They can vote in these upcoming elections assuming they bother to clear the letterbox and remove their forms. It could be suggested that the owners of these land-banked ghost houses have a moral obligation to this community, maybe even an obligation to rent out their home to people in need of housing. They can have their property managed so they don't have to deal with the hassle factor of finding a tenant, and in return they will get an income that will cover their bills and more besides. Sure, we hear the occasional horror story about tenants, but they are rare, unless of course you have Harry with AIDS. We also hear the occasional horror story about landlords. Last year, then Minister of Housing, Phil Twyford, said Labour had a comprehensive plan to address the housing shortage, including cracking down on offshore speculators, but this did not include taxing empty houses, such as they do in Vancouver, where a similar problem has existed. We have put the question to the new Minister, Megan Wood, and are awaiting a reply. It's a question we also put to staff readers a year ago, repeated here in the poll, and 79% felt we should not tax ghost house owners because it was not right for the government to dictate what people did with their property. Such a tax would not dictate, of course. It's just tax after all. But it appears you can't legislate against fear and selfishness, because that is precisely what's going on here. Is there a ghost house in your neighbourhood? We want to hear about your thoughts. Send your story, pictures, videos or story tips to homeed@stuff.co.nz. Right, I think I've finished it and there's no more and I can bring it. Oh, fuck, it looks like Harry with AIDS. Oh, fuck, no, it is Harry with AIDS. Oh, look at that, it's Harry with AIDS. Oh, Christ, Harry's got AIDS. Fuck, kill the cunt, he's got AIDS.